So it's quite an honor to be here and to receive this award, especially for the Leaders for Global Operations program that some of you may know of the program under its original title, which was Leaders for Manufacturing, and started 26 years ago at MIT. So again, thank you for this honor, and I should introduce my colleague, Don Rosenfeld, who is actually very sadly retiring this summer. And this program is basically his legacy. But also with us on the podium is a current second-year student, Michael Chun. And also in the audience there is Gavin Denise, who is an alumni from a few years ago. And okay, I'm trying to see if we have one more alumni, but no. So what we will try to do today is give you a little bit of an overview and an idea of what this program is about, and what, in our opinion, is the impact of the program for MIT and the world more generally. So effectively, what we will do is discuss 5 areas that this program has an impact. First, in education, in terms of developing a pioneer program, at least for MIT, and giving the chance to develop new analytics and leadership courses for the students. Impact to the students by educating them and training them in a number of ways to impact practice. So 26 years later, there are 1,060 students that have graduated on the program, and we will give you more details. Also, impact on industry through our partners over the years, through the projects that we have done and other venues. Impact more globally, primarily through our sister program that we have created in China, the China Leaders for Global Operations program. And finally, this program has allowed many of us as faculty to have a platform to develop cutting-edge research with a direct impact in practice. So let me try and give you a little bit of an idea of the type of problems that we work on through the LGO program. So I bet you that many of you may have been impacted by the recent superstorms that have been occurring almost at least once a year in the Northeast area. And many of you might have been without power in one of those superstorms for a number of days. And this, in a way, is the minimal effect that it can have on somebody. But there have been more severe effects of people that have even lost their lives through those superstorms. So one of our partners is the utility National Grid that approached us in the program. So I had the pleasure to work on this project, which was basically to help them in advance of a storm that's coming to predict damage so that they could mitigate it. And at the same time, bring in time the right crews in the right positions so that they could respond much faster and mitigate the fact that you were out of power for 5 days to have a much better response. This has created some media, including a Boston Globe article that you might have seen that talked about how MIT helped National Grid to develop a system that's now sitting on the Amazon cloud that we developed. So these are the type of problems that LGO strives and works on. But let's go a little bit back in time. So we are back in 1988, where many of you might remember that the US manufacturing was, and especially the automotive sector, was basically facing a big threat from Japan. So industry approached MIT. In fact, some of our partner companies who are still partners 26 years later, like GM and Boeing, came to us. And we sat on the table and we discussed how can we rigorously train students to respond as the US to such a challenge. Very soon, there was a program, the Leaders for Global Operations, at that time called LFM, Leaders for Manufacturing, that was created. And people realized that actually training rigorously students to go to the world and impact the world was going beyond the Japan threat, but you could actually train students to impact practice more generally. So the 2 deans at the time from the Sloan School, Lester Thoreau and Jerry Wilson from the School of Engineering, they created this program with the originally faculty co-directors of the program Tom Magnanti from the Sloan School, and Ken Bowen from the School of Engineering from Material Science. In fact, this program is very close to my heart because Tom Magnanti was my own thesis advisor. And as a PhD student, I grew up at the Elephant program because that's where we had our research meetings. So I would visit the program on a weekly basis. And of course, the most important person that started this program was Don Rosenfield as the executive director, who I remember Don going into Tom's office. The two of them shared the love of sports, and they would always share results for how the Celtics, the Red Sox, and so forth were doing. So this collaboration and this program got started, which was effectively a three-way partnership with a deep engagement from the industry partners and the two schools, the MIT School of Engineering and the Sloan School of Management. Who is in the leadership today? There are two faculty co-directors, David Simhilevi from the School of Engineering, yours truly from the Sloan School, and of course, Don Rosenfield is the executive co-director, and Vaid Derkia, who is a retired SVP from Cisco, that Cisco is one of our partner companies. Va was giving us enough challenge in the program that we decided to get him to actually help us with the program. So who are some of our partners? We have 23 partner companies. You see sort of some of the names. And what this bar signifies, above the bar, there are 9 companies who are our governing board partners. And below the bar are our operating committee partners. The distinction is that the ones above the line have been with the program many years and have contributed a lot. And this basically means that these companies come to MIT at least 3 times a year through formal meetings where we sit at the table together and decide how to shape and how to respond to the challenges of this program. And those 23 companies represents 5 international partners, but also represents many sectors, including tech electronics, biopharma, defense and aero, healthcare, telecom, energy, fulfillment and supply chain, Inditex. You know, I did not know this before I started working with them. It's actually Zara, J&J, and others. So instead of listening to me,
Hi, my name is Dave Schmidtlein, and I'm Dean of MIT's Sloan School of Management. It is a great honor to have Informs consider our Leaders for Global Operations program for the UPS George D. Smith Prize. Leaders for Global Operations is a really important program for MIT. It brings together MIT's Sloan School of Management with MIT's School of Engineering and an extraordinary set of industry partners who have been shaping this program through the years. This is a program that's been successful for 25 years now, and it's also distinct for its scale. Over 1,000 graduates have now come through this program, making a difference in industry and in practice. With respect to the impact, our industry partners have helped shape the kind of research and knowledge creation that MIT's faculty do through deep engagement with these companies' very interesting and important problems.
My name is Ian Waits. I'm Dean of MIT's School of Engineering. MIT has a very rich history of interacting with industry, doing industrial strength problems, I like to call them. And those interactions have many different modes with MIT. LGO is part of that, and it provides another connection between us and industry, which ensures that the work that we're doing here is relevant, is practical, and is really set to change something in the world rather than just study the world.
Our faculty and our students, through this collaboration, have made a great difference with respect to the state of the art, or the state of the practice, if you will, in these partner organizations. If I could touch briefly on 2 examples. One relates to Massachusetts General Hospital, as they've been reinventing the way that they manage their most critical operations. MIT professor Retzef Levy has led LGO students and other students from our PhD program in reinventing some of that hospital's operations, for instance, operating room scheduling, in a way that is taking Mass General into the future that it needs of fact-based decisions and of effective management of the very complex socio-technical systems that they engage with. Another great example relates to National Grid. Here, Professor Georgia Parakis has again been working with LGO students to deal with some of the very most important elements of crisis management for National Grid. Those include the way that gas leaks are handled and the way that the organization is able to anticipate storm-related damage to pre-position crews to be ready for those kinds of consequences.
The LGO students who come here typically already have experience working in large organizations, and they come here to develop, the additional deep technical skills and management skills that is really a launching pad for them to go off and innovate and change the world in their future careers. And many of them, over the 20-plus year history of the program, have gone on to senior leadership positions in many of the top operations and manufacturing companies in the world.
The LGO students have made a great difference in industry. They've also made a great difference here at MIT. Their culture that relates both to the most important concepts and methods brought into the most dynamic organizations has changed the rest of our student body at MIT in ways that are very positive. Again, I'm very honored that Informs would consider Leaders for Global Operations for this important prize. Thank you.
Okay, so what we are going to do next is try to give you an idea about the program itself and try to describe its impact in the 5 areas that I mentioned in the beginning. So starting from the beginning, the students arrive at MIT in June, and their first semester starts over the summer. The course of the studies is exactly 24 months, so the first summer is effectively the first semester. They get 2 degrees. One is an MBA, so they sit and study together with a regular MBA body at the Sloan School, and a master's degree through the 7 departments in the engineering school that participate in the program. The program is very difficult to get admitted to, so it's highly competitive because the students need to get admitted separately by one of the departments in the School of Engineering. They need separately to be admitted at the MBA program at the Sloan School. And at the same time, they need to convince us that they have a genuine interest in operations and get admitted separately through the LGO program as well. They spend 4 of the semesters on campus, and 6 months they spend it with a company, at the company site. They have 2 faculty advisors and, of course, the company supervisor that they work closely with. The faculty advisors communicate with them either through Skype when the company is not local, and in addition through visiting the company to help and make sure that the project is scoped correctly, and then giving constant support to the student to bring the project to fruition. And that project, at the end of the 6 months, starts writing of the thesis that actually leads to their master's thesis at the end of the 2 years. The idea here is that we train the students from the beginning to the end, in the sense that we train them first through the courses and other activities at MIT. Then we get them to actually get trained through the project and through the thesis in the company. So they get to work on a problem that's very relevant to the company and will impact the company. And Dawn will describe a little bit some of the impact in terms of the projects and the savings. And also through the interaction with the faculty, because as I mentioned, they have 2 faculty advisors, one from the Sloan School and one from the School of Engineering. Who are some of these faculty from the 2 schools? So I bet you that you guys recognize many of the names who are active faculty in the field of operations research. They include 4 members of the Academy of Engineering. It just so happens that the winner of the Wagner Prize is here. Two of the finalists of the Edelman Prize, Garmanik and Ashlagi, are part of that group. So we are very fortunate to be at an institution that we can interact with high quality faculty. Who are the participating departments from the School of Engineering? We have 7 departments: aeronautics, aeroastro, biological engineering, chemical engineering, civil and environmental, electrical engineering, computer science, engineering systems division, and mechanical engineering. So the student gets admitted to one of these departments, the one that they sort of designate their interest in their application, and that's where they get their master's degree from. On this note, I'm going to let my colleague Don Rosenfield to tell you a little bit more about the courses that they take and how the semesters at MIT are shaped.
So George is probably being a little kind in the sense that I probably interrupted a lot of productive discussions when she was a grad student to report Celtics and Red Sox scores. Anyway, what I'd like to do now is tell you a little bit about the educational program. We'll actually go into a little bit more detail than in our talk yesterday to give a little bit more flavor for what we do. So we like to think of our educational program being different from traditional educational programs in 2 ways. Number one, we see more areas of foundations. We try to go into depth in several areas, not just management and engineering. And second, we see a lot of cross-disciplinary and integrative activities. That's particularly important, we think, when you're working with companies, when you're trying to teach analytics and so forth. So our educational program has 3 parts. There are the foundations. In addition, the physical foundations that you might see in an engineering program, and the managerial and organizational foundations you see in a management program. We see foundations in informational areas: communication, accounting, information technologies, economics, markets and finance, and mathematical. And this is kind of the heart of our analytics focus. For example, when they start, they get 2 intensive courses, one in systems optimization and one in probability and statistics. I have to tell you one little joke that kind of illustrates the challenges that we face when we try to integrate management and engineering. I was giving this talk to one of our engineering departments, and someone asked me what I meant by communication. So I was trying to think of something clever to say, and the very sharp-tongued head of the department kind of barked at the person. He's talking about speaking and writing, not frequency modulation and bandwidth. And so that kind of illustrates the challenges. We try to build bridges between the 2 schools. Then we have a series of integrative activities, plant visits, which I'll tell more about, strategy, product process design, operations management. The internship is kind of the major integrative activity. A 6-month assignment at a company that's the basis of the thesis. And if you think about implementation of analytics, and this is kind of an issue that we face, and I think the other programs that presented yesterday face as well. The whole essence of implementing analytics is develop relationships with companies and projects at companies, and this 6-month internship is the example of that. And then finally, at the top of the triangle, we have leadership. When we started the program, leadership became an important aspect of the program, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it. The next few slides talk about the semester-to-semester assignments. So in the first summer, they take a series of courses that focus on both managerial issues and engineering issues. And analytic issues. So the systems course and the engineering probability and statistics course are the analytic parts that are all part of the students' engineering programs. And then they take a series of management and leadership issues, as well as some operations issues. High velocity systems is basically a high level view of lean. In the fall, they join the MBA students and take the Sloan core, plus some additional courses, including some engineering electives. In the first year in the spring, they're basically on electives. Most people take a course in product design and development, but there's plenty of electives, and that's where they might focus on things like supply chain and so forth. The summer and fall is the internship, and in the spring, they finish up with a course in operation strategy, and they finish up their leadership sequence. Okay, so what has been the impact of the program? I'll now speak to some of the 5 areas that Georgia mentioned that the program has an impact on. Okay, so the first of these is on education. So in terms of analytics, there are some of the courses on that, those previous charts are very heavy in analytics. These are the major ones. All these courses are required, and they were all essentially developed for the LGO program. Systems Op, Engineering, Probability and Statistics, Ops Management, Operations Strategy, which has, that can be a course that is managed, that is not analytic. We actually have an analytics basis to that. A Lean Tools Workshop and the High Velocity Organizations course. We've also developed a wide variety of electives. Some of these, like excuse me, supply chain and manufacturing and product development, most students take. But then we've also developed some specialized courses, like we have a course in healthcare analytics. And then there are some other courses that have existed at MIT for many, many years that many of our students take, courses like systems dynamics, pricing, and some of our specialized transportation courses. Okay, now in addition to analytics, the other major impact of LGO in education has been practice, okay? It's one thing to teach analytics, but I think what we're learning in this George Smith Award program is that practice opportunities with the companies are the essence, and this was true for us, and I think it was true for Lehigh and the University of British Columbia in their programs. So while our major practice mechanism is a 6-month internship, we've also identified a number of what we call action learning opportunities. For example, we teach a course called Operations Lab, in which students work in teams of 3 at local area companies on operations improvement projects. This spring, we have 30 students involved in 10 different projects within an hour and 15 minutes of Boston. And these are typically projects such as implementing analytics-based inventory management or production planning system. Michael Chun, who'll talk to you in a minute, one of our students, led a team to use simulation to improve order fulfillment processes at a small company. And these are great opportunities. These are typically small companies. They have a wide range of operational problems. It's not like they're experienced in having an analytics-based inventory management system. We were helping them from scratch, but it was even more basic than that. They had huge queue buildups in their order fulfillment process, and they built a very nice little simulation that identified some policies that could significantly reduce that backlog. We also have a course in which our students work with our sister program at Shanghai Jiao Tong University in Shanghai. We helped them set up this program to do operations improvement projects in China. So last week, well, a week before last, 9 of our students are in China to work with 3 different companies on projects such as developing recommendations on supply chain simulation packages. We also have a two-week plant tour around the country that involves 7 or 8 days of plant visits. These are rigorous and analytic views of the companies. Our students will also do 4 other days of domestic reviews and an optional international trip. On Saturday, I returned from China and Korea on a trip in which 44 LGO students out of 96 total, so this is an unbelievable fraction for essentially an optional trip. We visited 5 different factories in Seoul and Shanghai, again with report outs to come to the companies involved. When I gave this presentation on Sunday, I said I returned yesterday, and so with another couple of days, I'm getting over my jet lag a little bit better. Okay, finally, the internship is the primary action learning opportunity. Each January, the students report out individually on their completed projects in an all-day conference. Okay, so I mentioned the top of the triangle is leadership, so let me mention a little bit about our leadership program as well, because this goes hand in hand with all the practice, and it's an integral part of our educational program. So leadership, what we try to do is develop a leadership program that's multidimensional and non-traditional. It's multidimensional, and it includes skill modules, practice opportunities, and what we call reflection on practice. It's non-traditional in a number of ways. First of all, it takes place over the entire 2 years. It's non-traditional in that education takes place inside the classroom and outside the classroom. It's non-traditional and has an immediate impact. The first thing we do is we have a week-long workshop in socialization and leadership. And if you look at the activities over the 2-year horizon, there are a series of different activities. There are activities within the program. The universe within is that workshop I mentioned. The first summer they take a course in leadership foundations, and the final spring they take a course that's basically focused on reflection and moving forward. But then there's a whole series of other activities they do, as well as courses in the Sloan School on leadership and organizational processes. And some of these activities, most of these activities are required, but we also have some very interesting required electives. So Var Erdekian, who is our industry co-director that Georgia showed on the slide several slides ago, teaches a seminar on leadership and ethics. We started that seminar in 1990. It was started by the retired CEO of Stanley Works, a gentleman named Don Davis, who brought in a number of high-level people from a wide range of organizations. And that seminar has continued over the years with 3 people, always the industry co-director, and Var is leading that effort right now. Okay, all right, so the second major impact is the impact on training. And so we talk about education. What we mean by training is what is the impact of the students after they come out of this program on the companies they go work for. So let's talk about what the background is. All our students have a science or engineering background. Every single one of them has an undergraduate degree in science or engineering. They have strong technical skills, 5 to 6 years of experience, 3 at a minimum, a commitment to manufacturing and operations, and leadership potential. And if you look at some of our graduates, we've had, as Georgia mentioned, we have 1,065, and many of them reach high levels of their organizations, 80 vice presidents, 59 CEOs, COOs, a number of SVPs and EVPs. 73% of our students go to work for operations and manufacturing companies. 40 to 50% typically go to work for partner companies. Some of our grads, some of which are listed here, include the CEO of Accuride, the Senior VP of LSI, the VP of Simonton Windows, the VP for Supply Chain for SanDisk, the VP of Vehicle Programs at Tesla, and the President of Aftermarket for Pratt & Whitney. 3 of our graduates, 2 of you which you will hear from directly, represent the significant impact of our companies at high levels. Jeff Wilkie is the Senior VP Consumer at Amazon. Pat Shanahan is the VP and General Manager of Airplane Programs at Boeing. And Denise Johnson is the Vice President of Diversified Products at Caterpillar. Previously, she was President of GM Brazil. We have believed that our grads have reached these positions have been influenced significantly by the analytic training that they received, and 2 of these will discuss this directly. So let us hear from Denise Johnson.
Hi, I'm Denise Johnson, Vice President of Operations at Caterpillar Incorporated. It's been 15 years since I graduated from the Leaders for Global Operations program at MIT. Since then, I've been applying what I've learned in the program to lead global operations at General Motors and Caterpillar, both partner companies of the program. Whether building automobiles or the world's largest line of mining equipment, one thing's the same. You need to respond to and balance customer and business needs. The LGO program teaches analytical tools and technical skills. It really helps students build technical and business acumen. And not only that, but it also focuses on developing change agents and business leaders for all sorts of business environments. Because of LGO, I was able to quickly solve problems that others weren't able to solve. I applied what I learned to aspire innovation and coach those around me. The program has also connected me with my peers from other global operations, and I still keep in contact with them today. As a graduate of the program and as a leader of the largest division within Caterpillar, there's no better opportunity for future leaders than to bring the classroom and operations environment to life than through LGO.
Okay, the third major impact is the impact on our partners through our internship program. And based on surveys from both the partners and our students, we estimate that the partner companies see an average annual savings of about $1 million per internship. Now, some of the examples which have been documented, the first 2 are actually written up in theses that were verified by the company. UTC saving more than $2 million a year from a single internship. Mass General Hospital saving $1.35 million a year from a single internship. Nissan saved more than $500,000 from a single internship, and we actually went through a process of verifying that with the company. And Nike, they had 3 projects this past year that were very effective. While it was hard to estimate the final future savings, the Global Director of Supply Chain Innovation authorized me to say that each one will save millions. If some representative internships are listed on this slide, these projects are significant for their use of analytics, and many had huge financial impact. Typical approaches included optimization, simulation, statistical analysis, and more. I won't go through the details of these. I'll mention a couple of them. For example, Dan Noday, who was part of our team on Sunday, could not make it today, built a very nice supply chain optimization model for Goodyear. Ben Polak did a multi-echelon inventory strategy for retailer replenishment for Nike, which was one of the 3 projects I mentioned on the earlier slide. And Rachel Kelly did a very nice inventory redistribution among stores for Zara. One other mention, Leo Spindle, pictured here with Governor Deval Patrick of Massachusetts, worked on energy usage at Raytheon. Okay, Liz Katkoff's project at Nissan on outbound optimization led to this quote from Mike Steck, who was the VP of Supply Chain Management for Nissan America. So in general, a lot of these projects have been very, very effective, and we've tried to at least tabulate some of and corroborate some of these savings. Okay, let me turn it over to Michael Chun, one of our current students, who'll tell you a little bit about his experience at the program. Oh, okay.
So my name is Michael. Prior to LGO, I actually worked in the U.S. Army for 5 years as a medical platoon leader. There, I led a team of medics and doctors to provide support for combat operations for engineers, tankers, and infantrymen. Our mission was pretty simple. We were there to provide medical treatment and evacuation to any injured soldier away from the battlefield and to a hospital as quickly as possible. But in Iraq, I found that this was actually a lot more difficult than the mission sounds. On any given day, we had over half a dozen missions going on at the same time, ranging from engineers clearing out landmines to infantry soldiers kicking down doors to find Al-Qaeda members. And with my limited resources, I had to decide on a daily basis exactly how I would allocate all these resources to best support these missions. And quite frankly, given the sheer amount of uncertainty involving all these missions, it was very, very difficult to ascertain how dangerous each one would be and how to best support them. And so oftentimes I found myself having to rely on either my gut or my experience to make these decisions. So it's really no surprise that I turned to LGO to look for a way to sort of develop my analytical toolkit and frameworks to be able to make these kinds of decisions in the face of such uncertainty. And I definitely found that at LGO. The classes have been fantastic. The frameworks that I've learned, all the toolkits that I have been great, but the biggest thing that I've come away with so far is just a deep appreciation for the ubiquity of operations in everything we do. What I previously saw as largely a medical mission, I really see as not that difficult, or not that different from what you would find on the manufacturing line. You have capacity constraints, you have demand variation, and you have a lot of bottlenecks. And so recently I've had an opportunity at Amazon.com to not only sort of tackle the same sort of variation that I saw as a medical platoon leader, but also do it in a completely different context. And here we work with thousands of vendors to try and identify sources of variation and to eliminate the lead time variation that we see going from the product flow from vendors all the way to Amazon fulfillment centers. And really, I couldn't have done this without all the training that I received at LGO. It's just been absolutely fantastic. I was able to quickly go in, grasp the context of the situation, and quickly make an impact and try and identify those opportunities for improvement. And the other thing that I really found to be absolutely amazing is just the sheer amount of support that I've received from the LGO alums. There, I found LGO alums across the entire organization, and every single one of them has been willing to make the time to help me get to the goals that I sort of set out to achieve. And so I couldn't thank LGO any more for that. And I'll turn it over to Georgia. Thanks.
All right, hang in there. We are almost done. Two more things in terms of impact of the program and uniqueness of the program that I wanted to discuss. One was, what do we do more globally? Why do we have this name of Leaders for Global Operations? And this is done in a number of ways. One is through the development of a sister program in China, in Shanghai, with Jiao Tong University. So a few of us have earned quite a few frequent flyer miles by basically visiting Shanghai quite often. And also, so this is one sort of major aspect of this. But then we have 5 industry partners that are international companies and provide international industries to our students abroad. But also through other activities of the program, such as, for example, the Lion teams that Don described, where our students go, for example, to Asia and work together with students from Jiao Tong University on challenges in Asia, as well as international plant treks that we hold every other year, and where Don just came from. Last but not least, I want to talk about something that effectively had a big effect on my career when I got engaged with this program 5 years ago. And that is basically through the research that this program allows several of us to have. And these are just some examples of projects that have led to recognition by the field. Started with Jeremy Gallian, my former colleague, that through the engagement of Zara in the program, they were Edelman finalists in 2009. And after Jeremy left MIT, I had the opportunity to start working with Zara myself, which led, for example, to the thesis of Rachel Kelly that Don described. Also, the work with National Grid, one of the examples is the work on how to handle emergency gas leaks to avoid explosions. Some of you may be aware of the explosion in New York. And this in this type of projects, many of us, we actually pair LGOs with PhD students. So effectively, this program also gives a platform to train the PhD students as well to be able to impact practice and work very closely with the LGO students. And because the two student groups have complementary skills, this sort of combination works really well in my experience. This work led us to win the Best Paper Award in 2012 at the Inform Server Science section. But also other work of my colleague David Simchi-Levy with his PhD student and LGO student through Pepsi, which led to second place 3 years ago at the Nicholson competition. And also to several papers of several of us in journals such as Management Science, MSOM, Operations Research, POMS, Sloan Management Review, and so forth. And finally, impact through other ways, such as books that were written because of the program. You may have heard, for example, of the book by my colleague over here, Don Rosenfield, with Sarah Beckman from Berkeley on operations strategy, or the book of Charlie Fine on clock speed, or the book of David Simchi-Levy on operations rules, or of Dan Whitney on mechanical assemblies. And I'm leaving last the production and innovation economy. This was a big initiative that started a few years ago at MIT from our president at the time, Susan Hockfield. LGO played a major role. And in fact, that group where Don was a member of, this year went and reported the findings to Washington, D.C. And this book describes basically through several articles the outcome of that study. But also, if you heard 2 years ago, President Obama announcing the Advanced Manufacturing Initiative in the US, so that manufacturing can come back to the US, and this was done through the MIT president, who plays a key role in this initiative. And again, LGO is a major partner in this. And finally, I would like to let our governing board chair, Jeff Wilkie, a graduate of the program from 1993, and also senior VP at Amazon, to tell you a little bit about his experience and his views on the program.
Hi, my name is Jeff Wilkie. I'm the Senior Vice President of the Consumer Business at Amazon.com. I've been associated with LGO since 1993, when it was the Leaders for Manufacturing program, and I was a graduate. For the last 5 years, I've been on the governing board, and for the last 3, I've been the governing board's co-chairman. LGO gave me a great playbook for how to run an operation. I've had the good fortune to spend the last 20 years applying this playbook, 6 at Honeywell, the last 14 at Amazon.com. Though there are many pages to the playbook, there are 4 that really stand out for me. The first, plant managers matter. LGO taught me to treasure the leaders who run our operations. The most valuable of such leaders can lead a deep dive into a metrics of the facility and then pivot around and talk to an hourly person in a completely authentic way. Second, constraint management, how to characterize and relieve the profit bottlenecks to our processes and our businesses. Third, quality tools. The underlying mathematics of statistical process control proved incredibly valuable when we were setting up Six Sigma at Honeywell and throughout my career as we've applied lean principles for 20 years. And then supply chain is the fourth. Supply chain is a great place to apply the mathematics of optimization, OR, and of process control. At Amazon, we've built all of our software ourselves, so we've been able to lean heavily on the LFM curriculum and playbook in that implementation. At Amazon, we try to measure both our business outputs and the inputs that drive them. Our leadership principles include dive deep and long-term ownership. We ask leaders to use objective data to characterize our performance and to consider long-term impact and trajectories when making changes or inventing something new. The dozens of LGOs Amazon has hired over the years have led ACES teams. ACES is our version of Six Sigma and Lean, using data to reduce variation and eliminate waste. They lead our strategic sales and operations planning process, where we plan our capacity for the next 18 months. They've led fulfillment centers, where we expect them to be role models in diving deep using metrics, analytics, and great leadership. They've owned worldwide supply chain, European transportation, fulfillment by Amazon, and worldwide operations. They've made huge contributions to our company. As manufacturing operations have moved offshore over the last 20 years, the available pool of talent in the U.S. with deeply analytical understanding of operations has shrunk. Finally, this outsourcing offshoring trend has begun to reverse, and partner companies are considering moving operations back to the U.S. and growing existing operations. The chatter among my governing board colleagues has moved from, what's the role of operations in my company, to how can I hire as many LGOs as possible and take advantage of the LGO playbook they'll bring to my company.
So on that note, I would like to thank you all for coming so early in the morning and listening to us for about an hour. And I also want to thank the panel of judges and Rangathan for the opportunity and this extreme honor. So thank you all for being here, and I don't know if anybody has questions, but we are happy to entertain if there's time left. Thank you.